Hello, Toros. This is your ETE exclusive talk episodes podcast, a podcast for students by students. So, welcome to episode 2. Today, we will be talking about the life of a student during COVID. As students, we all have unique experiences, but we also experience much of the same thing. My name is JC.
My name is William.
My name is Daisy.
And my name is Juan.
So first off, we want to start this podcast by speaking about our adjustment period. So I want to take it back to like the first day, right, that this whole situation started happening, the last day that we were on campus. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I know that a lot of us didn't think much of it. We just kind of assumed, well, we're going to take a break. That's cool. You know, we're college students. Who doesn't like a break? So we just assumed we'll be back in 1 or 2 weeks. Everything's going to be fine. To our surprise, though, we did not go back, and we ended up getting emails telling us that, you know, school was going to be online for the rest of the semester. And honestly, it was hard. It was hard not just for us as students, but also, you know, faculty, professors. Everyone kind of had to just readjust to this whole new way that we were going to start learning. I know that for a lot of people too, it was difficult because, you know, they lost like access to internet, they lost their study place, and it was just a mess overall for everyone. For me personally, I feel like it took me like around like a month to adjust, just because while at the same time that I was adjusting, I have 2 younger sisters. So they were also adjusting to online because they were also transitioning. So at home, it was just kind of a mess. Everything was falling apart. You know, the internet was crashing and all of that. And as an older sister, I was trying to help them adjust. So it took me a while, but honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like after a month or so, I ended up adjusting and just feeling overall more comfortable.
I definitely feel you on that, JC. For me, it took a long time to get comfortable with the idea that I'm gonna just be doing home, like school from home. And it's a hard idea, right? Because say you're at school, like you already have this mindset, like I'm at school, I'm here to work. But when you're at home, like I just want to be chilling, I just want to enjoy myself. But I can't. It's hard because when I started, say school, and my mindset was like, all right, I got to do work. And then at home, I was just chilling. I would finish all my homework at school. I would be doing all my projects at school. And when I was at home, I was just like, you know what? This is my time. And it was kind of hard to combine those both mindsets because I was at home and I still had to do everything that I was already doing at school. So I feel like a lot of you guys could connect to that because I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one that went through that. And I had a lot of friends that were having troubles with school because they don't like online classes. So say, for example, one of my classes was a math class. It's kind of hard to learn math over Zoom. And I felt like that's where I needed more adjustment. And but overall, the adjustment period I would say was the first semester. After that, you kind of get used to it. But I just wish we could get back to school because I hate online learning at this point. It's very stressful, but hopefully next semester we'll be back.
Yeah, and I feel like I really resonate with that as well, where I feel like my adjustment period, I feel like I'm still adjusting even now, like even a year later, because it's March 19th today. So, you know, when we got out of school, I believe it was like March 13th or March 16th. So, you know, a year later, I feel like I'm still adjusting to online instruction. I remember the first month I was so exhausted because like William said, you know, when I'm at home, all I want to do is relax. Like my body and my mind know that this is where I'm supposed to, you know, just take time to practice self-care. I'm supposed to, you know, just be sleeping or, you know, having like dinner, whatever I do, you know. But I feel like when I had to combine, you know, not only my academics, but also my workspace from home, it was very difficult because, you know, I had to balance work, school, and then my personal life, but now they were all merged together. So it was like I was doing everything all from one location. And in my mind, I had, separate, everything was separate. So I had designated locations for certain things that needed to be done. So my adjustment period, I want to say, even though it's still happening, I feel like I came to terms with the fact that we were going to be online. I want to say like maybe midsummer. So I want to say like June, July, I was like, wow, like, next semester it's going to be online as well. How is that going to go? Because we did transition mid-semester. So this was going to be a full semester of online instruction. So I had so many questions, so many doubts. I even considered maybe taking a semester off because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it again. But here we are. I want to say like 2.5 semesters later, 3 semesters later. And I feel like, I'm still adjusting. I'm still trying to, get the flow of changing professors every single semester, of getting to know different peers, on an online format. So that's definitely my experience in adjusting from in-person to virtual learning.
Daisy, you actually bring up a perfect date. Like, I remember March 13th, that was like the last day. I saw you working there too. So I was working with you at ETE. So I remember that day. And honestly, you heard about COVID way before like March. You heard about it like probably like late November. And so late November, that's actually where my birthday comes in. So I was like partying and stuff. And still up till like February, I was still partying. We had like a baptism for my goddaughter. So I was still partying while the others were like already getting like masked and protecting themselves. So I really didn't believe in it. Honestly, I didn't believe in it. So when I come back to the March date, that's when everything started like closing. And then that day they were like, "Oh, next day you're not coming to work no more." And I was like, "Why not?" And well, because it became more serious. And so it felt weird because I started cleaning out the cabinets inside the ETE office, and I was like, "Wait, so we're never coming back?" And so it passed like a month, then 2 months, and I was like, the semester's about to be over, and I was like, okay, so we're gonna be back next semester. Turns out we didn't come back again, and so it was weird. And I was thinking COVID was like Ebola, like Ebola was like a few years back. So I was like, Ebola only lasted like a month, and we didn't have to wear masks or anything. It was just like quick. And so that was my mindset. But then after like the following semester, I started adjusting to it because I've never taken an online class. So like I used to spend like more than $10 a week on like junk food, which wouldn't even fill me up. Like now that I'm at home, I have my fridge right next to me. It could be like my best friend or whatever you want to call it. Now I'm eating eggs and waffles, anything, bread, name it, you call it. It's better than like school snacks at school. And I'm not spending money. Well, I am, but not that much. And regardless, like I'm in the business, I'm gonna be in the business industry later on once I graduate. And honestly, business is more flexible. So either you have, now that I heard of topics about business, now they're doing flexible schedules. So now it's part-time you're working at home, part-time you're working in the office. And honestly, I don't mind because if it saves me gas, well, I'm up for it. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be like that for most jobs, honestly. Like most jobs are going to be like that. So I think I'm good with it. I cope with it. I adapt with it. And I'm going to do so for like the remainder.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all had similar like experiences when it comes to adjusting. And honestly, there was a few positive things that came out of, having to transition online. Now let's talk about the obstacles and successes. For me personally, communication was one of the hardest things during the transition to online, just because, communicating was all through emails. And a lot of the time, the professors wouldn't see the emails because, everyone's asking questions. So it starts, overwhelming them. So that was definitely an obstacle, just trying to communicate, trying to get clarification on issues and stuff like that. But honestly, I think a success from that was that I've learned to be a lot more patient. And I've also learned to be a better communicator. I feel like I simplify my emails a lot more. I'm able to just get to the point. And I think that's something super cool, that I learned during this whole process. And another issue or obstacle that I had was the workload. There was definitely a big change in workload for a lot of my classes, and it did start getting very overwhelming, and it happened really fast. But I think the success from that was, I learned to be more organized. Like now, every week, like every Monday, I plan out my entire week, I stick to it, and, I'm able to stay on task. And I don't procrastinate as much as I used to because I know that it falls on me. If I get behind on something, I know that that's on me because I have the power to do it beforehand. So yeah, I think workload and communication were one of the biggest obstacles for me, but I was definitely I was definitely able to overcome them, and get some successes out of them.
I definitely feel you on that, JC. Since last time we had the conversation about creating like a little agenda for yourself for Monday, I started doing it because I kind of stole your idea. But it works out for me very good. So just a tip to anyone who's listening, I would suggest you plan out your whole week because online classes is kind of hard to keep up with, and that's one of the issues that I had was that keeping up with each online class because as JC pointed out, the workload is different. So when you were in class at school, maybe you worked on some of the work together, or maybe you guys did homework, like the professor let you guys do that in class. But now is they just go over the lecture during the Zoom, and then you have to do everything by yourself, which kind of sucks. And that's another obstacle for me was that I really didn't have anyone. Like you're just by yourself, basically. You don't really develop your social skills but you don't develop your social skills, but at the same time, you kind of do because you learn how to communicate over the computer, as Jason pointed out. So my emails have gotten like 100 times better because you start emailing people more often, emailing professors, and then that's when you build that skill, which eventually you're gonna end up using once you get into your career. Because who doesn't use like email to communicate? And I feel like that was a huge obstacle, communication as well. You weren't able to. So people said group work in college was bad. Now imagine having to do it over Zoom. It was horrible. And trying to align everyone's schedule because everyone still had to go to work, everyone still had to do their thing. And it was horrible because if a group project during school, you guys could just meet after class or something like that. But now it's different. People are working more hours because they have more free time. So maybe right after class, they clock in. And that's kind of more difficult to bring your group together. So that's a big obstacle I had to face, especially this semester with all the group projects I have to do. And besides that, I don't really think I have any other obstacles. A plus, as Juan pointed out in previous, was the gas. Like I don't have to waste no more money on gas. I don't have to wake up early no more. Like now I wake up like at 8. Before I used to wake up at 6, had to shower, get ready. Now I just be waking up. I'm like, oh, let's go. It's time for class in your pajamas. What better way to start off the day?
Yeah, William, I feel like you bring up so many great points. Oh my gosh. The pajama one I can relate to too much. I'm actually wearing a shirt today, surprisingly. But yeah, I feel like something that I definitely faced a challenge with was communication, as JC said, but also like just finding that motivation to, keep my routine, my same routine that I had, on campus and just in my work life at home. I feel like when it came to communication, it was so hard to get in contact with, peers, staff, and faculty. Again, because they're going through an adjustment period as well. They're going through their own challenges. They're going through the same pandemic that we're facing, and everybody has a different lifestyle or family dynamic, or just everybody has something that they're going through, and I feel like it was really difficult to just get in contact with people because so much was happening all at once, and I felt like nobody could keep up with what was happening, because I feel like the pandemic, it's such a big lifestyle changer that every day, something changes, every day something new comes up. And I feel like, no, sometimes it's just, you don't want to keep up with what's happening. Sometimes you just want to step away from that. So I just feel like, maybe because there was no communication because maybe people just needed a break. Maybe somebody just needed to like not look at their email today, not look at their phone, not look at their computer. But that also caused like a butterfly effect. And then the lack of motivation as well, where it was, how do I motivate myself to to keep up with my assignments, to keep up with my work, to keep up with the students that are also adjusting. I'm a student myself, but there are other students who are reaching out to myself and need my support, need my guidance. So how do I balance that? So definitely, just motivating myself to keep going, because I know that there's other people, dependent on me. And another thing was that, another challenge was my personal life, my personal issues during this time. I was, I live on my own. So moving from place to place, financial issues, making sure that I could take care of myself on my own. So personally, like as a student who, is independent on my parents, who solely depends on myself, that was another challenge that I faced. Like, how do I, go through this pandemic on my own? So that was definitely one. But I feel like out of everything, out of all the chaos, I feel like I became more of an independent person. And I feel like that's something that I never thought I could achieve. I've always been like super dependent on my parents, on my friends, just other people. And I feel like if there's one thing that virtual learning has taught me is, how do I solve problems on my own? How do I get through each day on my own and on my own entirely, because no one else is going to do it for me. I have to do it for myself. And I feel like that just made me mentally and emotionally more stronger. And I've had my off days. I had really great days, and there's days when I just completely plummet. So I just feel like independence and patience for myself is something that I definitely was able to pick up during this pandemic. And in ways, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for everything that I've gone through, everything that I've been through. And even though it's been very difficult, I still try to look at the brighter side of things. So definitely, I feel like I've become a whole new person 1 year later. So I'm like, wow, I wish I took videos or pictures or something so I can see my development. But I just feel like that's definitely something that I've seen within a year.
See, you just brought something up that I remember like last year. You actually told me, Daisy, that you were going to move in by yourself, that you were working on the process. See, that's an obstacle, connecting. Like, if you didn't tell me right now, I wouldn't have known. And so, like, I don't know when. But, I mean, everybody give it a round of applause. That's good. That's good moving in by yourself. I mean, it's like a huge step. That's a big step, actually. You actually, no more food on the table for you. You got to cook it yourself, got to bring it yourself, you got to set it up yourself, got to wash your own dishes. So I'm excited that happened after a while, after planning it. That's great. So connection, that's a big thing. Like, I was all used to like connecting with people on campus. Like, I'll see my students from ETE, like, hey Richard, hey Jesse, hey David, hey whatever the case is. But I felt like it was like cool, like saying hi to somebody on campus. You feel like included, you feel like you belong there. And now that is virtual, it doesn't feel the same. I mean, you still are connecting with others, but it's not the same. Also, you guys bring up PJs and routines. I feel like that's like a combination that doesn't go. It's like oil and water together. It doesn't really go. I noticed that at first. William, you're saying that PJs, like, it feels good. She's waking up, not waking up early. You're ready to go with PJs. Honestly, I did that for like the first month, and I felt like a total mess. But that's me. I don't know how you situated with that, but that's me. I felt like a total like mess. I felt like I was just like not in the mood for anything. But after like my first 2 months, like after the first semester of going virtual, I learned that having a routine will definitely help you out, because time management, that's something I always struggled with even before the pandemic. Tanya even knows that. She knows that for sure. Like, I'll come in super late sometimes for like ET, and I was at the office. I'll be clocking in at 10. No, I'll have to be clocked in at 10. I'll be coming in like at 10:05. Sorry, Jasmine, but we always have like these little combos. Anyways, but yeah, time management, especially now virtually. If you don't have a time management plan or like an agenda and you're late, you basically have no excuse. What are you gonna say? I was outside with my neighbor. You can't say anything because you can't really be outside. So that's actually good that you have a time management plan. I tell my students all the time, have a management plan, because there's no excuse really for you to. I mean, there is if you have other stuff, but honestly, there's not a big excuse. Um, but other obstacles that I faced were honestly, I feel like more emotionally because I felt lonely at some point where like I felt alone. Professors were not really guiding you the right way. Well, to me, they literally like assign a project, and on the announcements, they'll type out the whole thing, and I was super confused, and I felt like not doing it after a while. But then honestly, I had to go to office hours, which I hate, and we had to discuss everything, and it's just a long process. Overall, I overcame those obstacles and I got comfortable to like the virtual setting. And honestly, now I don't really like mind it. I feel like that's the new version of school. Like if you go back to on campus, I feel like I'll feel lost, but then I'll reconnect again. But I mean, it's not that bad. But we're gonna overcome it eventually.
Yeah, as you can tell, we all have pretty similar obstacles. We each have our own, but we have some that connect as well. The last topic for today's podcast is just going to be how we coped with the whole pandemic. So for me, it was trying to build relationships as best as I could. I tried reaching out to people in my class, trying to create group chats, still trying to build those relationships with others just because I feel like that's kind of what keeps me going. And I was able to do that, and I was able to become better at just communicating and connecting with people. I also coped by taking care of myself. I allowed myself to have breaks. I think that's extremely important. Don't feel the need that just because you're working at your house that you're going to be working the whole time. Allow yourself to take breaks. There's nothing wrong with breaks. Create yourself a schedule, so that you're able to manage your time and be able to just have that time for yourself when you need it. And lastly, what I wanted to say was honestly, the biggest advice is like remind yourself that the pandemic is out of your control, right? Like this isn't your fault, and there's nothing that we can really do to change the circumstance that we're in online learning. However, the way that we cope with it is what matters. So find things that you love and things that make you happy, things that you enjoy, to help you, get through it so that you're not just focused or stressed out with school. School matters, but you matter more. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself in that aspect.
I definitely feel you on that, JC. I feel like the number one thing that helped me with stress is taking breaks. So say it's kind of hard to be in like a work mindset while you're at home, like I've previously said, and then with different distractions. So say I live with my parents and then I have siblings as well. They're always making noise and stuff like this. And I felt like that was an issue, but I overcame it, and the way you could overcome obstacles is the way you could overcome the stress that you have in your life. So say stressing is a bad thing overall. Like as you pointed out, the pandemic's out of your control. Why stress over it? And my philosophy professor once said that you shouldn't stress over things you have no control over because you can't change them at all. So I feel like that would be a big quote a lot of people could connect to today, and hopefully everyone gains something from this pandemic and moves forward. But I feel like the number one way to cope with stress as a student is taking breaks.
Yeah, I think my biggest way of coping with the pandemic was practicing a lot of self-care and a lot of self-love. I feel like, I was always on a like go, 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 like scheduled. Like I would go from class to work, back to class, back to work, and then I feel like it was always back to back to back things that I had to do. And I feel like the one advantage that, I got from virtual learning was definitely having more time to be at home, even though it's tiring. I feel like I was able to practice a lot of self-love. I was always giving, my time to, work, school, students, family, friends, everybody but to myself. And I feel like, now that I physically can't be in contact with friends or family or students, or just people in general as often, because of the pandemic, social distancing, wearing your mask, not gathering, I feel like I've been able to focus a lot on myself, and I feel like that's what I really needed. and just taking care of myself, learning to put myself first, learning what my boundaries are, what my limits are, when to say no and when to say yes. And as William and JC have stated, learning to take breaks. And I feel like that all goes back to boundaries. So definitely, I feel like loving myself and growing just as an individual, not just as a student, but as a person. And there's a saying that goes, you're a human first before you are a student. And I feel like I've been trying to remind myself, when I'm overworking myself, when I'm, overloading myself with, assignments and work, I have to tell myself, like, this is good, this is for my growth, but I'm still a human. I still have my own personal needs. And I feel like that's always what I, tell myself, like, that's how I cope.
Yeah, you guys all bring a good point about taking breaks, because at the beginning when COVID happened and everything, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I felt that online was taking up much more time than it was in person. Like literally one assignment was taking me like an hour and a half when it could just take me 30 minutes in person. But yeah, taking breaks for sure. Don't forget, because it's easily to forget. Like you're all intrigued inside the assignment already, and you want to finish it. And say it takes you like 3 hours, you want to finish in those 3 hours, but you could burn yourself in those 3 hours. So it's important to take a break, because what if you're doing that assignment and I mean you're trying to finish it, but you just don't meet the requirements because you're just out of it. You just want to do whatever the easiest way. So just take a break. Honestly, it's better to take care of yourself before anything. Um, the way I cope with the pandemic, I know at first we couldn't go out and stuff, but then I felt more comfortable going out, like going on a hike or something, do something that you like. I mean, you can be around people, but do something that you like. Um, and other ways to cope with it, honestly, find your strategy of like learning. I mean, when you're in person, you have to find your own strategy, whether it is like having groups, being on your own, or even a phone call or talking to people in person. I know you can't really talk to people in person now, but now we could do virtual meetings, or we do phone calls, at least text messaging. I mean, emails. Those are like our only resources right now instead of in person. But finding your strategy of like learning and stuff, it's really good. Like, I mean, if you don't like meeting with the professor, I'm sure they have like a phone number where they could just call you without doing face contact, or like even just texting them. Some are open to it. I have professors that are open to text messaging or anything like that. Obviously, they don't use a personal phone number. They have like a Google number, you know. But I mean, just finding your own strategy will help you cope with the stress and taking a break.
Well, that would conclude today's episode, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for Juan, Daisy, and Jay-Z for sharing their perspectives about life as a student and during this pandemic. It'll only get better from here, guys. And then hope you guys tune in for episode 3, which is going to be our special podcast. And y'all have a great day.